So in some cases you need to find missing ratios. So some questions you're given 2 of the variables and told the ratio of them. You'll be given a new amount for one of the variables and asked to find the other. So to make a cake, sugar and flour are mixed in the ratio of 1 to 3. If you have 1,200 grams of flour, how much sugar do you need? So we start off as usual stating our ratio. So sugar to flour. So sugar is 1 and flour is 3, as from the question here. Now they've now said that we've got 1,200 grams of flour. So on our flour side, we now change this to 1,200. So we say to ourselves, how have we gone from being a 3 to being a 1,200? And we do that by doing 1,200 divided by 3. And that means that we have multiplied by 400, which means that we would do the same to the other side, which means that sugar would be 400 grams. So how much sugar do we need? Oops. So that's 400 grams of sugar. Make sure you answer the question at the end. Remember, whatever you do to one part of the ratio, you must do the same to the other. Okay, dividing into given ratios. So this is something that some people find a bit tricky. You may be asked to divide amounts up into given ratios. So in this case, Doris and Betty buy a raffle ticket and they win the top prize of $1,000. So they've got $1,000 that they need to split up. Now, when they bought the ticket, it cost $2, but Doris had only 50 cents and Betty had to pay the rest. Well, how much did Betty therefore have to pay? So if it cost $2 and Doris only had 50 cents, then Betty paid $1.50. What portion of the prize money should Doris receive? So if Doris and Betty paid different amounts initially, it's only fair that they should have received different amounts of the prize. So let's double check our ratios. So Doris had put in 50 cents and Betty put in 150 cents. So let's make this as small as possible. I know that these can both be divided by 50. So this is 1 to 3. So our ratio of Doris and Betty's money that they put in was 1 to 3. Now we've got 2 options of how to do this. You can use either method. I'll go through them both with you so you can just... Okay, so method 1. We're starting off with Doris and Betty have the ratio of 1 to 3. In both methods, we need to establish how many parts there are in total. If Doris has 1 for every 3 that Betty has, in total there are 4 parts. And we get that by adding 1 and 3. So there are 4 parts in total. If we can find the value of 1 part, then we can find out how much they should each receive. Now we are splitting $1,000. Now if we're splitting $1,000 into 4 parts, splitting indicates dividing, so we're going to do 1,000 divided by 4. That gives us $250. So 1 part is worth $250. We now go back to the original question and see that Doris only has 1 part, therefore Doris is going to get $250 and Betty gets 3 parts, so she's going to have 3 lots of $250, which is $750. Now our final check should be that our 2 quantities, Betty and Doris's money, should always add up to what we're splitting. So $1,000 split 250, 750, that looks good. So the question says how much money does Doris have? So Doris has $250. Now the second method is very similar. As I said, we start off by saying it's a ratio of 1 to 3, and there are 4 parts total, which means that Doris is going to have 1/3 of the, I apologize, Doris is going to have 1/4 of the winnings because we have 4 parts total, and Betty will have 3/4 of the winnings because she has 3 of those parts. Well, so that means Doris is going to have 1/4 of 1,000, and Betty will have 3/4 of 1,000. 1/4 of 1,000 is 250, 3/4 is 750. So an answer to our question is Doris receives $250. Now, you can do this in either, as I say, either of the methods work. Very important you understand how to get the number of parts, so you just simply add these ratios together. So the 1 plus 3 gave us the 4, and that's the most important part for both of them. As I said, final check should be that your quantities add up to what you're actually splitting. So in this case, we were splitting $1,000.